Throughout history, whenever there's a point in time where social change is on the horizon, it is usually met with extreme resistance from the ruling class. This resistance and pushback can be something simple as joking about it.
He, she, they, them, it, gross, what is that?
But it can get extreme as, well,
going out with a bang.
And when you really think about it, this is weird. As a progressing society, you would imagine that we would all like to try to be fair and kind to everybody, right? And if something isn't right, you should be able to protest that without persecution. Clearly, we have seen that that isn't the case. Really, 2020 was telling of this behavior towards social change. People were simply exercising their constitutional right to protest the government and were punished for it. And now in 2024, we have something objectively more sinister. Not being able to mass protest. Really, that is now the case for 3 states. The Supreme Court made the decision to not hear out the McKesson versus Doe case, which caused into question the legitimacy of the First Amendment. Shit is getting weird out here. But honestly, why does one case have so much power to dictate who can fully use the First Amendment or not? And really, what does this decision mean for the rest of the United States? Well, it can mean a lot. And that's what we're here to talk about. I just want to interrupt by saying if this is your first time watching one of my videos, subscribe, man. I do video essays and rants like this almost every other week, so if you do enjoy this video, go ahead and subscribe. So if you've heard, the Supreme Court has made a decision on the landmark case of McKesson versus Doe. And their decision was to not even judge it in the first place. But what is McKesson versus Doe? So let's go back to 2016. DeRay McKesson was one of the leaders who helped organize a protest in response to the passing of Alton Sterling. This protest was peaceful, but tensions rose and a police officer got hit in the rock, leaving them with permanent face, neck, and jaw damages. The lawsuit debates if McKesson is the one actually liable for the police officer's damages because he did organize the protest. And if McKesson is found liable for these damages, protesting as a whole is no longer a safe option for people. A piece of the First Amendment is no longer available. Because of the Supreme Court's decision to not even hear the case, there are a lot of elements that makes this decision dangerous. Now, to be fair, and I'm only being fair because it's a technical truth, technically, it wouldn't be illegal to protest, but making the protesters liable for all the damages that could happen? That is a surefire way to make sure no one ever organizes another protest. Hell, Super Bowl celebrations get crazy. Imagine if they held somebody liable for those damages. No more football. Using liability for the damages that could be caused in a protest is the ultimate deterrent. It's just impossible to be responsible for everybody in a mass protest, especially if there's a third party provoking said mass protest. So protest would cease to exist, which is one of the most effective ways of sending a message of displeasure. This is where the decision of the Supreme Court not to hear the case comes into full effect. Now, because it is left up to the Fifth Circuit, it is now up to the states to determine how they see McKesson versus Doe. And now, with Louisiana, Missouri, and Texas, we have a preview of how this could look. At the time of recording, there haven't been protests in these states while this law was in effect, and hopefully we don't have to see what it looks like in full effect. And seeing the pattern of the Supreme Court not acting on cases can be seen with things such as Roe v. Wade and how that wasn't codified. Trust and believe, it could have been codified a long time ago, but it wasn't. But this video isn't about Roe v. Wade, so do with that information what you will. The United States government isn't a big fan of seeing its citizens protest, and I can show you hours upon hours of evidence of that. But this decision on McKesson versus Doe does the ruling class a favor. Now there's another barrier added to disrupting the status quo, and the unrest that could come from protesting is now severely minimized. Let's think back to a situation I honestly haven't stopped thinking about since it happened, the case of Breonna Taylor. She was unlawfully shot and killed in her apartment while sleeping, with a no-knock warrant for drugs that didn't exist in her apartment. And this case seemed very black and white. The police fucked up, again, and they should see the consequences of their mistake. Instead of that, the city of Louisville fortified their businesses in anticipation of the jury's decision. Now, why would you need to board up your city after a court ruling? simply because they knew their decision was morally wrong and society would have to hold them accountable for it. With McKesson versus Doe completely left to the states, Kentucky could have made it illegal to protest this court decision and made it legal to arrest anyone who opposed it. That doesn't really sound like you can express your First Amendment anymore. But what do I know? I don't know. I have talked a lot about the First Amendment, but I really need to talk about every part so you can see the impacts of McKesson versus Doe. The First Amendment obviously is about free speech, but there's more to it. The First Amendment states that Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press, or the right of the people to peacefully to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. Let's think about what this now means with the context of McKesson versus Doe. States being able to choose when the First Amendment applies to its citizens is a shift to a more controlling government. You could almost call it, especially with how the tensions are in the United States regarding a multitude of issues. We have environmental protests calling out larger corporations for their hand in a climate crisis that we're going through. We also have protests to defund the police because people are tired of seeing innocent people get killed by the people who swore to serve and protect them. And the most pressing at the moment are the pro-Palestine protests, which are criticizing the United States for being complicit in the most open genocide since the Holocaust. The comments are going to be fun on this video. States now have the potential to limit free speech in order to curb social change. If it's something the ruling class cannot benefit from, they will do everything in their power to dismantle it. And it's funny really, because there's a theory called the interest convergence theory, which states that the only time social change happens is when a minority's interests align with the ruling class. And from the things that are being protested, the minority class's interests do not match the ruling class's interests. Not at all. And because of this lack of interest convergence, we get a peek into the United States to see that the democracy we believed it to be is not the case anymore. And this is proven true because Louisiana, Missouri, and Texas have all signed McKesson versus Doe into de jure law. Man, talking about this got me nervous, dog. But it is genuinely concerning the potential peak of fascism we're getting from this lawsuit. It shows us the reality of what we're living in. It shows us how close we are to seeing something that no one could have expected from the United States of all places. The land of the free actually not being free anymore. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like on the video, put your boy in the algorithm so everybody can see your boy, Baseddom. Yes, sir, man. Leave a comment. Have y'all heard about McKesson versus Doe? Have you heard of this happening to Louisiana, Missouri, and Texas? Let me know. Are you from those states? Drop it in the comments. Let's go ahead and get this conversation started. And subscribe, man. I can't give this number the amount of praise I want, but we are at 3,000 subscribers at the time of me recording this, and I don't know what to say. All I really can say is thank you to everybody who is now tuned in for my channel, either organically or from FD Signifier, which that's Unc right there. I look up to you, man. Thank you for being an inspiration, and thank you so much for the shout out because you're making my dreams of being a content creator realer and realer every day, and I love y'all, man. This is crazy. 3 bands, man. If you want to follow me on Instagram, that's in the description. If you want to join my public Discord, that is also in the description as well. But yeah, man, it's been Baseddom, people. Deuces.